Welcome to the AI Security Update, hosted by Dr. Anmol Agarwal, where we break down the latest in AI and security with experts on the front lines, focused on what you need to know without the hype. Welcome to the AI Security Update, where we discuss the latest in AI and security. Today, I'm excited to introduce my guest, Josh Peltz. Welcome to the show, Josh.
How are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
First of all, because you're a friend of mine, so you got so professional and formal right out of the gates. It was a really big switch from our preface. So it's great to see you.
Yeah, it's really great to see you, and thanks so much for being on the show. So Josh, can you introduce yourself to our audience, kind of your background, your expertise?
Yeah, sure. Josh Peltz. I'm the VP of Zero Networks. I run sales for the West and Central regions of our organization. I've been here just shy about 2 years. I've been in cybersecurity for 10 plus years. I've worked for 2 AI companies specifically for about 3.5, 4 years all told. And about 25 years in sales and sales management. So always in high tech or technology solutions and services. So across the gamut, excited to talk about the topics today.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. So Josh, so far on this show, we've had a lot of technical people, and they talk about the technical aspects of AI security and AI. But I think what you bring to the conversation is the sales and marketing bit. Based on your experience, what are some challenges you've seen with AI security in terms of how it's portrayed and the marketing aspect behind it? You just got back from RSA.
I
So,
did. I see 2 things happening in my public walking of the expo floor. I see a lot of great marketing, a lot of promise, a lot of opportunity, and people are taking a more positive bent. Acceleration and condensing timelines and empowering teams, and then providing better detection and response capabilities using AI security products, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody has AI embedded in some part of their story. In my private conversation, so not on the public expo floor, but in the private conversations that I had at RSA, they're a lot more pointed and a lot, I think, more fearful with CISOs and deputy CISOs and CIOs and other vendors. People are recognizing that the attackers now, maybe for one of the first times in technology, are rewriting the rules, and it's sped everything up. It's condensing these timelines. It's compressing the pressure on all of these teams to act accordingly. And I think there's a real arms race going on where the attackers are using tools that now don't sleep, don't eat, don't breathe, don't take breaks, and can be dwelling in your environment as we speak. That's not meant to be a fear factor type of sales or marketing. I think it's a reality of most of the conversations I had with CISOs and with deputy CISOs at RSA. And they're trying to contend with how do we prevail? How do we win this war, this arms race? So I think the conversation's shifting a little bit depending on who you're talking to. If you're looking at the public side of it, it is about the opportunity. I think on the private side, people are fearful about what's already here and how they can contend.
so when I've talked to other people, they're very fearful of AI and what it can do. The line that you said about they don't sleep, they don't eat, they feel no fatigue, we've heard that from multiple people across the field. But also from your perspective in terms of marketing, is there something the sales or marketing team could do? Because I know when we go on the expo floor, we see all these vendors, they pitch their products. I'm like, oh, we have the best AI detection solution for pick whatever product you want. Is there something that you would advise the sales teams at these different vendors and companies?
I think to the point I was making earlier, AI is pressure, it's compression, it's an accelerant for our attackers, but it's also all of those things for us as well. If you combine that messaging of expansion and scale and speed that the defenders can now have with better human practices and strong fundamentals across the rest of cybersecurity, I think that's the way for marketers to go. And I don't think that's specific to marketers because that's not vendor specific unless you're a programmatic vendor, purveyor of many products, like some of the larger ones. But pinpoint vendors, I think, need to um, be able to answer the question: my technology does X. Here's the human impact. Here's the team impact. Here's where we need to complement what you're already doing with the technology that we're purveying. And if they can come across with that message, I think it's going to be a lot more successful.
Yeah, yeah, good point. So one thing that you said was not only understanding the technology, but also the fundamentals and bringing that back to humans. Because when we have all these emerging technologies with us, we need to also add some level of understanding that, hey, we have this AI algorithm, but this is what it does, and this is how it helps you. So that's kind of the marketing, but also the impact to the organization is something I think vendors need to ensure that they keep highlighting because sometimes vendors, they mean well. They say we have like 99% accuracy or we can analyze all this malware. But then from a technical standpoint, like where I'm coming from, we know some of this is just marketing, but it would help to say, okay, this is what our product does and this is how it can help you. And here are some use cases where it helps our customers. So I think adding that to the marketing strategy would be beneficial for all those people in the expo. And I think some of them are doing that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think about having been in the industry for a while now. I've seen a couple of the waves. Zero trust was a huge wave, it still is, but 4 or 5 years ago. Um, then cloud security, and then now AI security. You do get a little innervated walking around the expo floor because everybody's marketing sounds the same because ultimately they are all pitching the same general vision. How they implement on that vision is different. And so, to your point, actual stories matter. Win stories, wins not just for the vendor, but for their customers and their partners. Like, how did they actually make a difference? I think that's critically important. Case studies are critically important. I'm a firm believer in small forums, private settings, like I mentioned, independent conversations where you're talking about topics or a key topic that's keeping organizations up at night. And so, having that type of forum to really dig into why you matter and how you're making a difference for others, I think is the best way to market or sell your wares. The Nothing against the large shows. It's great for visibility. It's great for exposure. It's great to get your name out there. And it's a central forum for people to get together physically more often than not to connect and to communicate, collaborate. But I think those small forums are critically important for really getting into why you matter and how you're making a difference.
I think the best conversations I have in the industry are when we just have the small side meetups. Like Josh, you host, the sidewalk con at RSA Conference or like the rooftop con. So just having a small group of people to just talk informally versus these large crowds, I think is very beneficial. Are there any venues or meetups that you recommend for the audience?
Oh, wow. There's a bunch virtually, there's a bunch physically. So I'll start with physically. I do think those opportunities to connect with 15 or 20 peers are critically important. There are online Slack channels and Teams channels and a variety of online forums where, even Reddit, like publicly available information, privately available information, where people can collaborate together and say, "Hey, I'm facing this problem. How did my peer group solve it?" I think that's important. The blogs out there, this type of podcast that you offer, or dark reading, or our Darknet Diaries, or Krebs on Security, some of the tools out there. There's a variety of try before you buy tools, marketplaces, et cetera, are great places to get educated and evaluate technologies. Those are all very good. I wouldn't recommend a specific steakhouse chain. But I do think those small backroom conversations are critically important for better exposure. For all its ills, LinkedIn is a great asset. And what I mean by that is you're actually connecting more often than not with the humans behind their profile page. Some of them are bots, so be careful. That's a caveat. But I think for the most part, you and I connected online first. Then we connected in person. Then we met at a couple of shows, and we've had a relationship because we did have that first connection. But it was built on authenticity and integrity. You weren't looking for anything. I wasn't looking for anything. We were looking for, mutually interested people to connect on cyber. And so we did. LinkedIn is a great opportunity for people to build those private interactions or forums, and then setting up virtual coffees like this could have been, uh, had I planned better and had a cup of coffee in front of me. But connecting with people, talking about what they're into, what their interests are, what they're facing in their careers professionally. So using LinkedIn as an asset, versus the deluge of outreach that happens, you can make very surgical, authentic, targeted outreach to ask people genuine questions and to learn from each other. And I think that is a underutilized part of LinkedIn. I've been very successful in reaching out to a lot of executives, a lot of young practitioners in their career, people that I've now become a mentor to, people that mentor me. I think it's a phenomenal asset. So I would advocate for using LinkedIn in its intended purpose, which is connecting people, versus just trying to do overt sales or marketing. Really trying to learn from each other from their profile pages. I have friends in AI security at Zenity, as an example. They launch a phenomenal amount of great research. Grace One does a lot of really good research. Volcheck does a lot of great research. My company, Zero Networks, does a lot of great research. And we drop that research out there as an offering to the industry to educate people more. We use LinkedIn because our blogs don't always get as much exposure as LinkedIn will, with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers out there. Palo Alto does a great job, in my opinion, of getting um, less marketing centric and more industry centric uh, assets out into the market. So Era is another one. AIRA, that's a great brand new company that's out there, like a Zenity, like a Gnostic, that is providing information for the industry to use. So I would also suggest that along with these types of podcasts or blogs.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So many resources. And yeah, you and I connected on LinkedIn. It was just, we reached out to each other and then we just had a coffee chat, kind of like this. And I've done that throughout my career, and it's really helped me. It's helped me find mentors. It's helped me connect with people in the field. So highly recommend that. That's something I tell my mentees as well, is just reach out to people if you're interested in what they're doing, and then you never know where that conversation might lead. So Josh, we see that everything's moving so fast. These new companies like AIRA and all of these different ones. And it seems like every day there's a new development. So because this field is moving so fast, what is a current event that comes to mind that you think we should discuss, that you think our audience would benefit from learning about?
I had a banking call this morning with my bank. I got a hold of a customer care agent and had at least a 5-minute conversation. And after I hung up, it is the first time in my experience that I reflected on the fact that I didn't know if that was a human or not. Like, I could typically tell, not because I'm that great at assessing whether or not it's an agent or a bot, but in this instance, the response time was near human perfect. The wording was very conversational, and but they had all the right answers at their fingertips. And there were no ands and uhs like I just did. But I know that they built those into some of the prompts nowadays. My point is, more advanced AI agents are out there. And we need to be very cognizant of the fact that humans, I know that the concept of zero trust is to always verify and never trust, but we are trusting by nature. It's how we built society on love versus hate, in more often than not cases. And I think we have to be very careful of that. AI is now extending a place where it is going to be able to not only scale attacks, but scale its trust by getting faster, getting better, getting more human, and fooling us to the point of my banking example just earlier. I was at a lunch at RSA, the NCA. Shout out to NCA folks, Lisa Plagmeyer and the folks over there, National Cybersecurity Alliance. They had about 200 people in a room, mostly senior executives and CISOs and CIOs. And the assistant director of the cyber division of the FBI, Brett Leatherman, got up on stage. And he was saying, across 99% of the breaches or enforcement or the intelligence community is brought in, it's because of 10 critical controls, one of 10. Could be 3 of 10, could be all 10, but at least one of the 10. They've listed on their website, if you want to go check it out, fbi.gov/Winter Shield is the website, and it's a publicly available resource. But they talk about those 10 controls. Some of them is just a lack of MFA on your system. Some of them is poor segmentation. Some of those are a vulnerability was identified 2 years ago, a patch was built 2 years ago, but organizations still haven't actually adapted. There are so many critical controls that are the basic hand washing of doing surgery or the fundamentals of cybersecurity. And I think our hygiene is at a mess. So I think with the advent, and there's a longer answer, with the advent of AI security and AI tools that are making security much harder, we still have to get the basics right. So that's yeah, I think the big lesson isn't just go buy a bunch of other new tools, the novel tools out there. I think the solution is make sure your fundamentals and your fortresses are in place because you have to guarantee that you are prepared for that breach versus just assuming you can put your head in the sand. It's not going to happen yet.
Yeah, great point. Because in cybersecurity, we always think, there's going to be a breach. It's just a matter of when. And fbi.gov/Winter Shield, that's a really good resource. I'm going to look at that up right now. But yes, definitely those 10 that you mentioned, even the basics like segmentation, MFA, multi-factor authentication. I think that's something so important for our audience to understand because even if you're not in cybersecurity or you're not in AI, and let's say you're a small business somewhere, you still need to follow the basics of cybersecurity hygiene. So that's one important resource. Josh, thank you so much for calling that out.
I think of the advent of AI security is incredibly important. It is an accelerant. It is very empowering for these organizations to do something that would have taken thousands or hundreds of thousands of people hours in the past. And I equate it, and I tell my kids at home and some of my mentees, I tell them, imagine a house because everyone typically lives in some sort of domicile. So imagine a house that has a really smart security system. You can open your garage door. You've got a Ring system. Shout out to Ring. Now that I'm doing a podcast, I'm doing all these commercials. Sorry, but you've got your you've got your home security system that's incredibly smart. You can turn on lights. You can do all these different things to make sure that you have better security. But someone knocks on the door and you let them in the front. Like it's not enough to have these very novel types of technologies that can help you identify threats before they happen. You have to have the processes in place and contend with the human element because we do trust by nature. And I think we have to find ways to prevent me opening that front door or my garage door to that stranger that seems great, that is a neighbor that's calling for help, because this quite literally happened. A neighbor came over when we had just moved in and said, I've been locked out of my house. We hadn't met this neighbor yet. My wife actually went out to help this individual. Thank goodness that was okay. But imagine the scenario where that wasn't actually a neighbor or that wasn't actually someone in trouble. Like we are trusting by nature and we want to help by nature. And these tools are getting smarter and faster and actually helping us make poor decisions in a rash way. So I think we need to be able to make sure what's normal, what's not with the tools we have, but then also make really good choices. So smart technology and smart behavior is kind of the best complement.
Yeah, a great point that it's about the human understanding, right? That we don't want to open the front door. And in some ways, even though we stop trusting, I think that's also really bad for society because ultimately, as people, we all need to lean on each other and help each other. So it's really difficult to find that balance. You have to trust, but also verify. Zero trust.
You still have to lock your doors and you still have to have something in your house that's probably a lockbox, right? You have to have multiple places where you're locking down your key assets or your crown jewels, your passport or your birth certificate or what have you, right? I don't think attackers aren't just breaking into environments nowadays; they're being invited in because they're convincing us to let them in. and they're targeting trust. And so we have to find ways, process, training, education, technology to not just have a better system, but a holistic system. And in the event that the holistic system breaks down, we have to have protections in place. So I think we need to move as an organization and as an industry in general from detection and reactive response to proactive preventions, to those 10 controls that I mentioned from the FBI website, or to the 6 pillars in the new cyber strategy. Like, make sure you have these fundamentals in place because the world is changing. We don't want people pre-positioning APTs, dwelling in your environment for a matter of time, so then data can be exfilled or extorted or what have you. Like, put the protections in place now to keep people out now before bad things happen. Not to be a doomsday person, but I tend to lead more positive in my interactions with you and other people. But in my own private place, I'm a lot more pessimistic about our chances of fighting the evil empires. And I think we need to be very prepared for that and proactive in our prevention.
Yeah, I agree. We need to be proactive. APTs, by the way, is Advanced Persistent Threat, in case you didn't understand that acronym. And typically we see it's an arms race if you just follow what's going on geopolitically. Um, always there are countries who are fighting other countries at a very high level. And so APTs are like one country at a high level again, just attacking another country in some way. That's basically high level explanation of what an APT is. So ultimately, we're all going to be victims of some kind of cyber attack. Just think about like Target, the data being breached, or any online website that you use, the data being breached. Now on Instagram, sometimes those profiles on Instagram aren't actually legitimate. And they'll say that we're selling this product or we're selling this unique item. And then you click on it, it seems really realistic, but then it's not. It's actually, a scam. It's they're trying to get your data, they're trying to get your credit card information or your sensitive information to ultimately steal your information, and then they won't ship the product to you. So that's something you should be aware of as well, is that they're getting very sophisticated now. And it's not just something for the organizations to worry about. It's something that's impacting everyone.
That's why I think NCA, back to that organization, it's a nonprofit that is focused on predominantly US citizens and working with a lot of large corporations to provide better education to the citizenry. I would check them out. I don't remember the URL, but National Cybersecurity Alliance, NCA, probably .org. Um, but I would double check what they're up to and the education they provide to the masses. It's good for students. It's good for elder care and helping people that are more advanced in age, or maybe a little more cyber unaware, to determine what these causal factors are and what they can do to actually prevent bad things from happening to them and their identity and their finances. So check out NCA.
Yeah, thanks for that. A shout out. So there are also similar organizations outside of the US for different countries as well. So I know the UK, they have their own NCSC. They also do a lot of great work with resources and education. Australia, Canada, they also have resources as well. Even if you're outside of the US, you probably also have a similar counterpart that will give you more information about cybersecurity.
And if you want to not sleep at night, go to that FBI website and learn more about what the MSS are doing, or the FSB in Russia, MSS being Chinese. Um, yeah, so some pretty some pretty emotionally taxing things that will wake everybody up. But for those that aren't in the cybersecurity profession, going to tools like you mentioned from different parts of the world are great assets.
Josh, are there any other highlights you want to mention from the RSA conference? If you could recap the conference, I know there was a lot, but if you could just
Um,
give.
it's a phenomenal opportunity again to meet with people in person, have really good conversations. One of the conversations I had was yeah, an organization, a CISO, a very large operation, said, "Look, I've spent on the show floor itself millions of dollars with a bunch of these different vendors, but if my third party partners have not had the same scrutiny and rigor and spend for their protections, I'm at risk." So, third party risk is still top of mind for a lot of CISOs. And now you extend into a world where people are using AI for vibe coding, like we mentioned earlier. We're injecting a lot more risk into our environments. So I think that those were two of the main things that I heard outside the themes that we've already talked about. But then there was also a flavor of the post quantum world as well. I understand that IBM actually had something working on the floor, showing people it actually working live nowadays. So I think we need to be contending with that type of thing as well. But I'm not an expert on that side of the fence.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And we actually will have an episode with a post quantum expert coming soon from Yolanda Reed, who's one of my mentors. So she actually does work in the post quantum world. She used to work at IBM. So if you're interested in that side, definitely check out our future episode when it gets released. But yeah, thank you so much for that recap, Josh, because I know RSA, it's so much going on like all at once and you feel like you're going to miss something or another.
It did feel a little bit, and this is just my personal perspective, like we were playing catch up. I think I mentioned that already. There's already next gen suggestions that AI agents will be autonomous, the attacking agents, I mean. And that is a terrifying conclusion, right? They're going to meaningfully erode all the assumptions we've made on the defensive side if they're going to have tools that are actually going to be working on their own behalf. So these large scale offensive campaigns that we see today, I think people are already starting to worry about the next phase.
One challenge, I think, in my opinion, is that the adversaries, they might not care about the ethics of AI. They might just go for the autonomous AI agent, not caring about where it's getting its data or how it's doing what it's doing. It's just focused on, mass accuracy or mass casualties in some cases. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Reflecting back on what Brett at the FBI said, in their evidence, there are not a lot of novel exploits being invented by the PLA. It is, or other agencies. There is simply an exploitation of the basic controls that are missing. And so making sure that we have the right foundation for uh, privilege access and remote access and MFA and patching and really determining how we fortify our buttresses and our towers in our respective fortresses, I think is the important thing. Like I was saying earlier, if I made the mistake of opening my garage door, if the door between my garage door and my house is still locked, even though I'm letting someone into my garage door, at least I'm protecting the family and the assets that I have in the house. So that is something that I think about every day. That's top of mind. I don't know, to your point, if we do everything ethically, which we should, and we do everything deterministically in approaching AI, we will be able to combat the evil empires. If you look at the comic books superhero genre, back in the day, Captain America didn't curse and Batman never used a gun. And nowadays, in the Marvel and the DC superhero movies, Batman does use a gun, and Captain America curses like a sailor. So, so, so I think the world is changing. I'm not saying we need to be unethical in our approach, but we need to be very determined that we're going to build the right defenses in place and offensive tools in place to combat the people that are unethical. Stay to our standards, but make sure that we are really fortified.
The world is changing every day. And even in this field, it seems like every week there's a new development, some new research that came out about something. Um, so Josh, one other question I have for you is you've kind of already touched on this, but based on your experience and everything we've talked about, Is there another everyday scenario that explains what we've already discussed today?
Um, Everyday scenario. I'm sure your viewers are varied. So you have some cybersecurity professionals and people just entering the field. I would use the metaphor for people that are newer to cyber. I think AI security is kind of like credit card fraud tools. In fact, I believe most of those are AI born now. So they will let you know immediately. In fact, they will probably do it behind the scenes and block usage of your credit card in a foreign country where they know you not to be based on your purchase pattern. If I just bought something at a gas station and it had one of those illegal readers embedded in the gas pump, and lo and behold, my credit card number was used somewhere else where I clearly physically could not have been. They will block that type of thing using AI. Um, but if I am foolish enough or tricked into actually giving away my credit card information to a third party or to an unknown website or to somebody using a deep fake approach or some phishing campaign, then that's a little bit incumbent on me. Unfortunately, there are bad people out there that prey on people like that. I have a very young company, some friends of mine that are in high school and college that I'm mentoring called AFO Cyber. Have a look at them. They are actually trying to prevent scams and campaigns against the elderly and active adult communities who are not as technologically aware or proficient. Like, how do you contend with all these brand new tools out there that could truly fool people, especially those that are more, let's say, Luddite towards technology? And and I love the fact that there are organizations out there that are trying to propose to help those that are in need. But I do think that we all make very opportunistic targets. So I think the credit card metaphor hopefully is a good one. If you're giving out your credit card information, if you're not stopping yourself through some basic education, saying, "Does this feel right? Does this look right? Does this seem right?" You can always disconnect, and you can always protect yourself in a better way by education or just letting that sixth sense, that spidey sense, to use a superhero metaphor, um, come into play.
Yeah, I think that's a great metaphor because we've all experienced that. Um, Whether we're traveling or we just go to a new store and then the bank texts us and says, "Hey, we declined this transaction because we weren't sure if it was you," and then you confirm. Or even when you log into your email, sometimes they say, "Is this really you?" Or if it's not, then maybe you should change your password.
So, MFA, I worked for 4 years at Duo Security before I came to Zero Networks. And the notion was that second factor of authentication to actually prove you were who you said you were was critically important. At Zero, we do MFA for privilege access into systems and protecting different protocols. So I think having that second layer of authentication is critically important, and then proving your identity or having identity aware solutions like that is really going to be critical. Whether it's on the B2B side, the business to business side, or the business to consumer side, or just as a consumer, protecting yourself with your bank, make sure you set up those safeguards to ensure that you do get that call if something seems off before someone uses your financial tools for ill-gotten gains.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Um, So I think this concludes the show in terms of what I wanted to ask you today, but is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, I love how you started the call. One, that I'm not a technologist, clearly, but two, how these vendors are promoting their solutions and using different marketing and campaign oriented strategies, and then how people are selling those wares. And I think it's important to lead with authenticity, to differentiate yourself, to actually talk about what matters, the difference that you're making, connecting with people in smaller forums, collaborating on solutions, explaining how it works better, um, having the confidence to go out and say, this is where we're making a difference. is critically important. Do not call executives on their cell phones Sunday morning at 7 a.m. or show up in their driveways. That is not a good way to extol the virtues of your technology solutions. Those are those are important, but I think we could do a better job as an industry differentiating ourselves by talking about exactly how we do things and where we're making a difference. So I love the way you started the conversation today, and it was just a lot of fun talking to you.
Thank you so much, Josh. It's always really great talking with you. So, this concludes our episode. We'll be back next time with more great conversations.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the AI Security Update. No hype, just what you need to know. Subscribe to catch the latest episodes and connect with me, Dr. Anmol, on LinkedIn for more insights from the world of AI security. We'll see you next time.